The Superscope Storyteller presents the Bremen Town Musicians.
Long ago, there lived a donkey named Fester, who faithfully carried sacks to the mill every day for his master. He did this for many years without tiring. But as he became old, much of his strength was gone, and his loads had to be lessened. One day, he overheard his master talking to his wife.
Our donkey has served us well over the years, but I'm afraid he's outlived his usefulness. He'll have to be destroyed.
But why not let him live the remainder of his years in peace? He's always been a good worker, and he should be rewarded for this.
I'm sorry, but we can't afford him if he doesn't earn his keep here. We have no choice but to have him killed in the morning.
That night, Fester decided that since he could not serve his master any longer, he would travel to the city of Bremen and become a town musician. So he quietly set out on his journey, hoping this new trade would bring him better fortune. He traveled for some distance until he came to the country and spent the remainder of the night resting, hidden in a small patch of trees. The following morning, the donkey was suddenly awakened by the howling of a pack of dogs. Fester did not move, for fear they were after him. He waited until they were gone before stepping from his hiding place. As he walked around a large hollow log, he was startled by a rustling sound from within. Fester noticed what looked like a brown snake sticking out of the end. But upon closer examination, he realized it was attached to the hind quarters of an old hound. The dog shyly looked up at the donkey.
Please don't tell my master where I am.
I won't, but who are you? And why are you hiding inside this log?
My name is Growler. You see, I've been getting old, and every day I get weaker. I heard my master say yesterday that if I couldn't keep up with the rest of the pack, he was going to...
You don't have to say another word, Growler. I have the same problem as you. When I heard my master was going to destroy me, I ran away. I'm going to Bremen to become a town musician. Say, how would you like to join me?
The hound agreed, and the two were quickly on their way. Soon they came upon a cat who was sitting in the middle of the road with a face as long as a rainy day. She wore a collar on which was printed the name Whiskers. Fester felt very sorry for her.
Why are you so sad, Whiskers?
Who can be happy when she finds herself out on her elbows? I'm getting on in years and my teeth are blunted, so I prefer to sit by the stove instead of hunting mice. Because of this, my mistress wanted to drown me, and I quickly made myself scarce. But now I don't know where to go.
Then why don't you come with us to Bremen? We're going to become town musicians.
The cat took little time in making up her mind, and soon the three of them were traveling down the road side by side. Shortly thereafter, they passed a barnyard. Sitting on the fence was a red rooster who ruffled his feathers and nervously crowed as loudly as he could. The three were startled by the piercing sound. The donkey wished he had hands to cover his long ears.
You crow so loudly that my ears are ringing through and through. Is something troubling you?
Isn't it enough that I awaken my master each sunrise so he can do his chores? Or that I tell of good weather so my mistress may do her washing? Now they insist that I provide the dinner tomorrow when the visitors come over.
But is that so bad?
Yes, when you take into consideration that the main course will be me. So I'm crowing with all my might while I still have the chance.
Why, they ought to be tarred and feathered for even thinking of such treatment for a faithful servant like you. What's your name, anyway?
Redcomb.
That's a fine name. Well, then, Redcomb, why don't you come along with us? We're going to make music together in Bremen. You have a good voice and will be perfect for our group.
The rooster needed no further persuasion, and so the four proceeded on the road to Bremen. After several days' travel, they arrived in the town. Now it so happened that on that day, there was to be a concert in the town square, and everyone was waiting for the performance to get underway. Our foursome decided this would be the perfect opportunity to begin their careers, and boldly walked up on the platform. You can imagine how astonished the people were when the donkey made his announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure in presenting, for your entertainment pleasure, Growler, Whiskers, Redcomb, and Fester.
The quartet began to sing. The donkey brayed, the hound barked, the cat mewed, and the cock crowed. Unfortunately, the crowd was not ready for this kind of music. They became angry and began throwing anything they could get their hands on, including food from their picnic baskets. One overripe tomato landed right between Fester's eyes. Finally, the barrage was more than the four could stand. They quickly made their exit, but not without first gathering up all the food that had been thrown on stage. That night, the four animals sat huddled around a small fire that some campers had left earlier. They had been forced to retreat back to the country, but they were not in the least bit discouraged.
Have another ear of corn, Redcomb.
Why, thank you, Fester. Don't mind if I do. How about you, Whiskers? Is that fish going to be enough?
More than enough. I couldn't eat another scale. Growler, would you mind chewing that bone someplace other than next to my tail? It's making me nervous.
I'm sorry. Say, Fester, do you think that maybe we should sing in the town again tomorrow?
No, we'd better try our luck out here in the country first. Then, when we build up a following, word will spread to the city about our greatness.
The other animals agreed to Fester's plan, so they decided to look for someone to entertain. The animals walked for some distance and finally came to a small cottage. A light shone through the window as the four crept up to it. Little did they know that this was a robber's den. Inside, a group of bandits were enjoying food and wine. Upon hearing the merriment, the animals thought this would be the perfect audience for them. Fester took up a position with his 4 feet on the windowsill. The hound jumped on his back. The cat climbed on top of the hound. And last of all, the rooster perched atop the cat's head. They waited until Fester gave a signal. Then they began to sing with all their hearts. The robbers became alarmed.
It must be a demon! Quick, let's get out of here before it eats us!
The thieves quickly fled through the door without stopping to look back. After waiting for a few moments, the animals slowly entered the house.
We were a success.
Do you really think so, Fester?
Of course, Growler. Didn't you see how fast they left here to tell their friends about us?
The animals decided that since it was late, the large crowd would probably not return until the following day. So they put out the candles and looked for sleeping places. Fester lay down on a pile of straw in front of the house, Growler behind the back door, Whiskers on the hearth near the warm ashes of the oven, and Redcomb flew up to the roof. Soon they were fast asleep. The robbers had kept an eye on the house from a safe distance, and when they saw that the lights were out, the leader motioned to his men.
I can't help feeling we were tricked, and if we have been, I'm going to take whoever's in there and turn them inside out.
He ordered one of his men to search the house and report back with his findings. It was after midnight when the robber quietly entered the house through the kitchen window. Observing nothing but total darkness, he decided to light one of the candles. Mistaking the cat's shiny eyes for live coals, he held the candle close to them, attempting to light it. But this startled the cat, who leaped at his face. She spat at him and swiped at his nose. The man was so frightened that he ran to the back door. But this was right where Growler had been sleeping. He jumped up and bit the man's leg. The robber, who was by now terrified, ran out the front door and right across the pile of straw. Fester wasted no time in giving him a good sound kick with his hind legs. The rooster, who'd been sleeping through all this commotion, was suddenly awakened. Thinking it to be an unusually dark morning, he gave a hurried cock-a-doodle-doo. The robber ran as fast as he could back to his comrades. When he arrived, the impatient leader was there waiting for him.
Well, what did you find?
There was a terrible witch in the house who hissed and scratched at me with her long fingernails. Behind the door, a lion bit me on the leg. In the front yard, a horrible black monster hit me so hard that I flew from one side of the yard to the other. And if that weren't bad enough, there was a judge seated on the roof who yelled, "Bring the robber here!" I tell you, I've never been so scared in all my life.
The bandits all agreed that this was more than they could handle, and so they left that part of the country as fast as they could travel, vowing never to return. It did not take long for news of this to reach the townspeople of Bremen. They were happy to be finally rid of the menacing band of robbers, and they rewarded the animals well. The four received food and gifts of every kind. But probably the greatest reward of all was the invitation to perform in the town square once a week. The Bremen town musicians were happy to have found a home. And most importantly, a place where they were loved and appreciated.